This Canizero Creations training video will show you how to add asymmetrical borders and complete that border with a Y seam. You can see the center of our quilt, which is a panel, is finished. And we've sewn our borders together. We have 3 different stripes. Now, the first border is already connected to our center. What we've done is pinned our border, and we marked 1/4 inch from the end. This is where we're going to start sewing. But before we start sewing, let's talk about this border. The border is 6 inches wide. So in order to use this border as an asymmetrical around the edge, we need to make sure that the border extends past the end 6 inches plus another inch. So we've got about 7 inches down this way. We then sewed from that point that I showed you down the seam to the end. Once that sewing is complete, you can press your border, press to the dark, and we can add our next border. We're going to pin it beginning at this side. So you'll see again, it will extend beyond the edge here. We've got a bit extra, but that's okay. And then we'll sew this border. When sewing is complete, we'll remove our pins and we'll press again towards our border. Now we'll add our next border the same way we added our first. Again, we'll pin this and we'll sew the border on. Okay, so you can see that we have 3 borders added to our quilt. In order to add this last border, we're going to start where we began. So over in this corner, I'm going to flip back this first border we added. And I'm actually going to fold it a bit, and I'm going to fold it a bit like that. And I can even pin this to make sure that I'm not going to catch it when I start sewing my seam. Okay, so that's just a little bit out of the way. Now, if I turn this over, in this corner, you're going to see here is the dot where we first started. So that was the 1/4 inch in. On my last border, I've done the same thing. I've put a dot in that corner. So what we're going to do is line up those dots, and we're going to pin. Okay, now you don't have to pin right through the dot. You're just going to make sure that they're lined up, and you're going to pin over a little bit to the side of it. You can pin your whole border on, and then what we're going to do is we're going to start sewing at that new dot. Just taking care to make sure that we don't catch that first border that we added in. And you just sew the whole border on. Our last seam has been attached. You can see that we pressed it, and our pin is still attached over here. So to finish this border, we're going to remove our pin, and we're going to fold that first border back down. That's going to match up right over the last border we attached. We can add a pin, and we'll sew, finishing that seam. Next, press that last seam. And once it's pressed, you're just going to square your quilt by trimming the last borders. You can see here we have a little bit more. We'll go around the quilt and we'll square it off by trimming those borders. And your asymmetrical borders have been added, and your Y seam is complete. Now that our borders are trimmed, you can see that we've added our asymmetrical borders nicely for our great little elephant charity quilt. Thank you.